Hi everyone. I promised recently when I was dissecting some of the books that I was talking about using for different purposes and going through and choosing images, that I would take some of the images that I liked the images, but that they were too big for what I do, or well, I love this image, I probably won't use it in my work. So I think that I am going to turn these images into envelopes. Okay, I mean, I just love this image, but I also know that I'm not likely going to use it in my work. So, and I could use the envelopes, and I could use fun envelopes for our Mail Art Mondays. Mixed media Mail Art Mondays, really. So what I've done is I have cut a sheet of copy paper to the same size as these pages, because I want to make the largest envelope I can out of these, because I specifically want them to mail things in. And there are different ways and different styles of envelopes. And believe it or not, I actually have a book on envelope making. But do you think I could find it? I also have envelope templates, which again, I couldn't find. But there are a couple of styles of envelopes, and I thought by taking apart a couple of these junk mail envelopes, I could show you what I'm talking about. And one style gives you a much larger envelope based on the piece of paper. It wastes less paper, in my opinion. Well, it's not going to be perfect. There's a little tearing up to do. But this envelope right here has two little flaps and two big flaps around the main envelope. This kind of envelope, let me get it apart. And even if I was using giant paper, this kind of envelope tends to waste so much paper. You see? Now, it doesn't have to be exactly this trapezoidal shape. It could be more square. In other words, we could turn this piece of paper this way, but you still have to have corners that flap in, where this one is a much more usable shape to make our envelopes. Now, we're not going to end up with envelopes that are this long. We're going to do them a little differently because of the pictures that I have. Calendars make great envelopes too. And like I said, I just don't like this. This shape wastes paper to me, and this gives me a better envelope. So I tend to use this style where I have these little flaps that stick out and these bigger flaps that create the back or the front of the envelope. And I have this piece of paper. Now, I'm going to fold this piece of paper and show you how to create the envelope. But because my pictures are all just a little bit different, they may end up being a little different folds and things like that. So I'll kind of show you when I'll kind of talk to you about that when I get there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this envelope up. I'm going to fold this down. Now, there is no reason for it to come all the way down here. I'd only need it down 3/4 of an inch or so, so that it covers just so that it overlaps. It's got to overlap a little bit. See that 3/4 of an inch? Okay. Now then, I've got, this has lines on it, so it makes it real easy for me to do this. I am going to, well, I turned it around and then put the ruler on the wrong side. I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to draw a line 1/2 inch in. Yes, the top and bottom I did 3/4. This one I'm just going to do 1/2 inch. Okay. I'm going to turn around and I'm going to do the same thing over here with 1/2 inch. Okay. Now then, I guess it would help if I drew these lines on here so you can see where I folded it. For some reason I can't see the folds very well today. I can't see them, you can't see them, that's for sure. Okay, so now we have a piece of paper where we have a bottom flap, a top flap, and we have all this edge. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to cut this out of here. Okay? The thing of it is we want to cut this at a tiny little angle from this big bottom flap. I'm just going in about 1/8 of an inch to cut this at this tiny little angle right up to the point right there. And then I'm going to cut this other one at a tiny angle. Can you see that? Oh, let me bring you in really close. I can do that. That's the whole point of making videos, right? Okay. All right. The same is true on this top one. We're going to go, and then on this top flap, I've got about 1/8 of an inch, and I'm going to just cut all the way down to that corner. So that angles, it's just a little tiny bit of an angle. If it's not enough of an angle, we can cut a little bit more later, but I'm pretty sure it will be fine. So each of those little pieces we're cutting out with that tiny little bit of an angle. I didn't have quite enough start. Okay. Now these 4 little pieces, guess what? We're going to throw them away. Then we are going to take this piece and fold it in. And we're going to take this piece and fold it in. And this piece folds up. Now you see that little tiny bit of an angle, what it did? It gave us a little bit of, it's not right out to that edge, so it's nice and clean. And that is the same case when we come down here. Now that one didn't quite line up, so if I want it to line up exactly, which I don't usually worry about, I can trim off that little bit. But see, now I have a nice little envelope shape. Okay, so what it is it's 2 little side flaps, a big bottom flap, and a little top flap. Okay, now I'm going to bring it back out so you can see what I do. I'm going to do the same thing to these. Okay, now if you need to make yourself a template, make yourself a template. To me, it's easier for me to just fold it. So I don't usually make a template. Okay, what I usually do, and let's see here, that actually looks pretty cute. What I usually do is just fold, but I'll show you on this one by using the template. Okay, I'll actually draw lines and cut this one. I find it easier just to fold, and I'll do one both ways. And I want my envelopes as big as possible, so that is one reason why I am making them this way. Now, isn't that a cute envelope? Now, we have to put it together somehow. So, I don't put glue here. If I put glue there, I'm in trouble with where the bottom flap ends. Sorry. So, if I put glue on here, and a tiny little bit right across that bottom edge, doesn't want to go in. Okay, and then flip it up. Then I don't have glue closing off my envelope, and I don't have glue up here where it doesn't work. Now, I want to make these envelopes ahead of time for my Mail Art Mondays. There's options. I could put double-sided sticky tape on here and have it ready to just peel off and stick it closed. Usually when I'm getting mail ready, there's glue around my studio, so it's not a big deal. If I were taking these off with me somewhere, I might put the double-sided sticky tape on there, but I find it just as easy to run a line of glue around there when I am ready to use my envelope. I will probably put the address and everything on this side, Remember that you need some nice white labels to do this with, just because this is the cute side. These book pages are nice and sturdy, so that makes a pretty sturdy envelope. I'm going to show you on this one how I do it without the tracing the guide, because quite frankly, I find that a little more difficult. It's just easier to fold it. I don't have to have any exact proportions on these envelopes. So if I just fold it and then fold this down. Now, here is something that I should have thought about ahead of time, okay? But because of it, it's a good one to show you on. I really don't want this on top. I really want this on top, right? So I'm going to go ahead and cut my envelope exactly how I was going to before. I'm just going to fold in my 1/2 inch on this side, and nice clean folds are always good. Excuse me. All right, I need to cut out my corners. Okay, so that's not going to work. It's not going to make me comfortable. I thought maybe it would be faster, but it's going to make me uncomfortable. But it might be all right if I was going to cut several. Okay, so this time I really want to be able to fold that up and tuck this in that way. So what I am going to do is I am actually going to glue this backwards and just leave the big bottom flap open. When I use my envelope, I'll tuck everything in and then I'll glue this bottom flap on. So, you know, it's not a necessity for you to do it the same way every time. We have options with our envelopes. We are making them. They're not coming out of a box. Now, like I said, I can tuck all my stuff in that I want to put in there, and then I can fold that and glue it down. And that way, the back just doesn't have that line on there, so it's not confusing to the little post office computer. And I have a really cute envelope there. So I'm going to go ahead and make some of these envelopes just quietly. And honestly, I should be able to cut several at one time if I use all of these that are the same size. I'm looking at the image, guys, okay? The reason I'm not going to cut this one is because I want to be sure that the image is a little different on that one. So these, the image is pretty much the same. Okay, now the reason I didn't go ahead and do this one was because when I used the template, it kind of, it put my folds in a place where I wasn't as happy with the picture. I mean, I know that's a silly reason, but I kind of want to fold this one on its own so that I have those little rosebuds peeking out at the top of the of the envelope. I'd rather cut off a little bit at the bottom if I have to, but I don't think I will actually. And see, just by folding it myself and not using a template, I can get a different look to my envelope. And it's still a perfectly good, usable envelope. Quite frankly, if you have something to work on in front of the television, this is a good television activity because, you know, you don't have to pay close attention. We're making an envelope out of book pages that we might not otherwise use, or pretty calendar pages. Well, that's not got quite enough angle, I don't think. There we go. Well, I'm gonna work on these others before I glue those, because if you glue every single time, you lose time. So Okay, so I decided not to use this one right now. That would not be a problem. I could turn it and in this or this one, I could turn it and I could fold my flap down far enough to cover that up. But I don't need the envelope that bad, and I may find something else I want to use it for, or I may turn it into an envelope later. It's not a big deal. I have plenty of images that I can turn into envelopes. And I like the deeper depth of this kind, just because then I can tuck a piece of painty paper in or whatever that I'm going to do. I thought I'd bring it in and show you these kind of up close, but I also wanted to talk to you about this one. I folded this one not using the template on purpose, because I was afraid I was going to lose the top of this guy's head or this guy. Obviously, you know, I've got feet and legs upside down, but it's not real noticeable. And the other thing is I'm going to put my labels, my address label on this side, which even distracts from that more. I will put big, not big, but white address labels on here just because the post office computer can read that better. There's one of them here. It's very dark. Oh, it's right there. I could, I suppose, write on this one with a white pen, and have the writing be white. But more than likely, I will again use a white address label, just simply because I'm pretty sure that the computer can read a little bit better. And you have to realize that the post people, this would be hand sorted. If it was hand sorted, it's going to cost more to mail it. If I can make sure that it goes as just a letter, then it is a little less expensive. Some of these I use the template for, some I folded by hand. I kind of looked at the image to see which one. Now see, this little girl's feet are upside down, but you hardly notice that. And by the time I put the label on it, you won't really notice that that's this little girl's feet. So I thought I would bring you in close and kind of show you these. These are from a couple of books that I dissected recently. Let me see, shall I put that link here? I guess I'll put the link to that dissection of that book right up there. And then I'm thinking about doing a playlist for all the things I did with that book. So, but let me, I have to write myself notes. Okay, let me bring you in and show you these. Come on now. And realize these are what I would consider the front of the envelope, and I'm going to put the address on the back side. I love this little statue over here on this one. This is possibly one of my favorites, but I knew I wouldn't use that image unless I doodled on it or something, I guess. But that one upside? Oh, that one is upside down. Okay, we got to turn it over, Tanya. This is the one that I put together backwards so that I can cover up that line. So it will actually, I will glue it down and then I'll make sure it goes out that way. Okay, guys, we're fixing to get a storm, so I probably better get off of here. Let me read you a quote from our 1001 Ways to Creativity and get things finished up for today. A blank page or canvas can be intimidating. Just make a start, however, and the intimidation will melt away. I like that one. Okay, guys, go have fun. Make some art. Bye-bye.